The year is 2023. McLaren had been dwindling at the back of the grid for the whole season, only scoring 17 points in the first 9 races. But then something incredible happened. McLaren brought upgrades, and they worked. All of a sudden, McLaren went from back markers to front runners fighting for podiums almost overnight. And it didn't stop there. McLaren would go on to win their first Constructors' title since 1998, 1 year later in 2024. But with this newfound pace and Constructors' title, the expectations of this team had shot up exponentially coming into 2025. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, Zach, what's the issue? They're leading the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors at the minute. Why are we talking about McLaren today? When you take a deeper look into the McLaren team, you start to see some cracks that become quite alarming. And realistically, even though they are leading the Drivers' and Constructors' title, Max Verstappen in second place is only 1 point off Lando Norris in the lead. This should not be this close. McLaren should be dominating right now. So let's talk about McLaren. Now, you can't talk about McLaren before you talk about them as a full team. So we really need to deep dive into one of the biggest issues they have at the minute, which is their strategy calls. We saw it in Japan this season, just how weird they can go. Obviously, they pitted Oscar Piastri before Verstappen and Norris to cover off Leclerc, who wasn't really a threat. Mistake instantly. And then Verstappen comes into the box, and who follows him but Lando Norris? Especially around a track where you cannot overtake, you need that tyre deficit. It made no sense why they wouldn't have, they could have even had Piastri going long to try to just have that tyre advantage to try to make a move on Max Verstappen. They clearly had the faster car. They screwed up the race strategy, and we saw this multiple times in 2024 as well, losing plenty of points throughout the full season, and that's how they got so close to not even winning the 2024 Constructors' title with the car they had then. So first off the bat, they need to get their strategies better, and they need to stop being so conservative, because this is the other issue with the team. They look like they're happy with this result, and if you had told them in 2023 that they were getting a second and third place, they would be over the moon. But this isn't 2023, this isn't 2024. This is 2025, where they have the best car by quite a bit, and let's say it's even just 2-ish tenths. That is enough to be getting a 1-2 week in, week out. And when we listen to the interviews they're talking about, they act as if they are just super happy to get that 2-3. Yes, it is a double podium. But yeah, with that car to have only had 1-1-2 this season, with 4 events where they could have got a 1-2, it's a bit shameful from them. So they need to start thinking, again, I mentioned this last season, like a champion winning team. Otherwise, this is never gonna happen. Now, I will give you this. In McLaren's defense, their twitchy car. Now, I will talk about this in the drivers as well, but there has been obviously the whole talks of Norris and Piastri saying the car is hard to set up over 1 lap pace. And we see this every qualifying session, because we've only seen one qualifying session where in Australia, that I think they both set good laps, and we saw what that McLaren could do. Then in China, Norris bottled both Q3 laps in sprint quali and the quali, just diving back into the pits, meaning he ended up much lower than he should have been. And even in Japan, yes, it was close between Verstappen, Norris and Piastri, but Norris, again, screwed up Sector 3 and Q3, should have been faster. Piastri, again, slightly off. He had a terrible first sector. So these small things that will come to bite them in the arse. Now, is it the car? Is it the driver? I believe it is the car, just hard over 1 lap pace. But in F1 where it is right now, there's more tracks that it's harder to overtake at than there are where you can overtake. So you need to get qualifying right. So maybe it's the setup, or they go for more of a qualifying setup more often now. But they need to sort out their Saturdays. And then the final thing on the team side of things is they just can't pick a number 1 driver. Now, it's all fun and games coming into the season with equal drivers. And you might think, Zach, you're crazy. Why are you talking about number 1 drivers? It's only been 3 race weekends. Just let them drive. Yeah, don't get me wrong. On an F1 fan perspective, this is brilliant. Them knocking points off each other. It means that there's a 3-way battle for the championship at the minute. But if you look at it as a McLaren as a whole, like, okay, so what McLaren should be doing, and it starts to get into this situation where hang on a second. We've always said Verstappen is at a worse position because he doesn't have a wingman. I don't think Norris or Piastri is the wingman to one or the other. So it ends up with them fumbling all over themselves. And Verstappen, he just has to focus on himself so he can pick up the maximum points elsewhere. So it's annoying on an F1 perspective for me to say this, and I don't want them to do this. I like having them as equal drivers. Even as a McLaren fan, it's nice to see them ding-dong battling. But if I was someone working with McLaren, I'd be like, right, listen, we're screwing about so much. We're going to lose the Drivers' Championship if we don't go, okay, here's the number one, here's the number two. It could be either of them, and I think that's the big issue, isn't it? And neither of them are going to be happy, especially Piastri. Of course, we've got Mark Webber as his big dog manager. He would not be happy with that. But these are the hard decisions you have to make as an F1 team. It's not a decision I'd be comfortable making, but hey, I'm not a big dog team principal to tell them what to do. That's why they get the big bucks. They've got to make these decisions. Now, heading on to the drivers themselves, and you've got Lando Norris, and I did mention this earlier. Is it the car? Is it the driver? Now, Norris normally is good in qualifying. He's dominated Piastri normally in 2023 and 2024 in qualifying head-to-heads. But this season, he just seems off it. Now, like I mentioned, he can't get that car set up for one lap pace, and when he does, it's just twitchy. Because I still don't think, bar Australia, we've seen him set a perfect lap in qualifying now. And to give it to Lando Norris, I think that is about it. Because in the China sprint race, the reason he had that whole incident was because he was further down than he should have been with the qualifying. And elsewhere, Japan, hard to overtake. There wasn't much he could do there. The team should have told him to do something different. But with Lando, it very much is just start getting qualifying right again. And he's not done too much wrong. He hasn't maximised everything, but he's done the best he could do in the race. I mean, he's had those brake issues in China. He did really well to keep that second place. And in Australia, kept it clean enough to win the race. So Norris can be happy with that. But then you have Piastri. And again, like Norris, we've seen him prone to little mistakes. Now, Piastri, I think, has done really well bigging himself up to Lando Norris's level this season. And I thought they would get close, but this close, wow, Piastri's done really well. Piastri really used to struggle on that qualifying pace, like I mentioned, and even in the race, he would start to dwindle off in the middle area compared to Lando Norris. But we're not seeing this season, so wow, Oscar Piastri individually, what a season he's having. To put it into perspective, if Oscar Piastri did finish second in Australia, he would be leading the championship right now with 65 points to Lando on 62, and then Verstappen wouldn't be as close to the McLaren boys, only on 58. So without that mistake, Piastri is the leader of this driver championship. That's how good his season's been. But that's the issue, isn't it? He's made the mistake in Australia, completely ruining his race. Now, my God, the pace he had once he got back onto the field after the safety car, getting past Lewis Hamilton, I think for me, overtaken a season so far. But again, you can't be doing stuff like that if you want to win a championship. And that is what's letting, who I'm going to talk about next, get so close. And that's Max Verstappen. And see Verstappen winning a championship because we've seen he can still do it in that tractor of a Red Bull. So don't put him out of this championship season. And McLaren know this. When your rival is Max Verstappen, you need to be at your best because he's going to maximize every single points he ever gets in a race. The only way you're beating Max Verstappen is if you get lucky with a DNF or you stop making mistakes yourself. He is, without a doubt, the best driver on the grid currently. And then enough about Maxi Taxi. We then finally have to talk about development, changes in the season. Let me use 2024 as an example. McLaren started off that season around third, fourth fastest car on the grid. They looked like they had a bit of pace, nothing crazy. We get to Miami, they bring upgrades, all of a sudden, boom, they look like the fastest car. After McLaren had taken that crown from Red Bull, few weekends later, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after Canada, we had a massive spurt of Canada, Silverstone, Spa, where Mercedes looked the quickest. And then Ferrari, after dropping back after having some upgrades not work, came back later in the season. Mexico, COTA. This season, I don't think it's going to be exactly the same as 2024. But if you are not optimizing your chances when you are the front car, which McLaren at the minute aren't doing exactly perfectly, you're going to let Verstappen get closer. Because yes, even though it could be a Ferrari who gains the pace, it'd be someone like Verstappen who is constantly there, who would be the one who gets the spoils from this, because then all of a sudden Ferraris versus Verstappen, he'll happily sit second because he's beating the McLarens who are his fight at the minute. It's one of those things, isn't it? So McLaren need to make sure they're getting everything right before Spain. This is the whole big change when it comes to Spain for the flexi wing sort of situation, and Red Bull are rumoured to be one of the better teams that could come out of this situation. So if we get Verstappen coming out of Spain looking good, I think the championship's his. Even if Verstappen has a dominant car for a good 4 or 5 race weekends, that's all he needs to then be consistent throughout the rest of the season, and he's won it. So my God, you can clearly see, like I mentioned at the start, yes, it looks brilliant. Drivers and constructors, leaders at the minute. There's so many cracks and so many things that could go wrong this season for them. And I just had to make a video on it because I think a lot of people do agree as well. McLaren, there's a lot of things you need to start getting right. And hey, I will say I'm happy that we can be in this situation as a McLaren fan myself right now. To be like second and third isn't good enough. That's, like I mentioned, if you told me that a few years ago, I would have been like, you're busting my balls. What are you talking about? However, times change and your expectations have to change. And right now, that expectation with where the car is 1-2s week in, week out while we can, before anyone can catch up this season. So all in all, McLaren can be happy that they are leading the championships. However, they just need to be careful, as that could easily be snatched away, especially the drivers, anytime soon if they keep going with all of these strategies. Qualifying not going their way, not picking a number 1 driver. I think that's the bottom of the list, because realistically that's not going to happen. I don't think they are going to pick one. So if they just get qualifying and the strategies right, they can improve on what they've been building on right now. But anyway, comment down below what you feel about McLaren this season. Am I being too harsh? Or do you think I am spot on thinking they should be doing better here? It can change at the flip of a coin. But anyway, if you like what you have seen from this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I hope you like the background for now. It won't be staying here. It will be on the fan out video as well. But right now, I'm getting some stuff done in the normal place I record. So you get the bees at the minute. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all on Wednesday. This video is also coming out a day later. Sorry, I had quite a hectic Monday. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.